And good afternoon, happy Sunday to everyone. I am super delighted, and I just want to say that for you to take the time out on a Sunday, your colleagues or wherever they are, some may be in church, some are doing fellowship after fellowship, some are resting at home, some are doing so many things, but you are here. And that shows the commitment that you have towards, actually having a successful product. Doesn't mean that those are not here are not, but it just shows the intentionality that you are putting on this, and it's highly credible. And I just want to say congratulations to the team at Percussion HQ for your launch. And I am in the know, and I am glad that you're doing this, because this is actually the right start. But before I would start, I would love to sincerely and appreciate the entire leadership of the Society for Corporate Governance Nigeria for the honor. I consider this a privilege to be here to represent the society, speaking to a very salient topic, which we all know at this time is no longer just a catchphrase. Corporate governance, it's something that dwells deep into the very fabric of every single institution, whether it's profit, non-for-profit, or just something that you are targeted towards organizational success. So I am glad to be given this honor, and I do not take it for granted. My special thanks goes to Choma Modi and the entire team, and of course, Ifeanyi also kept following up with me and all. So let's go right to it, right? I'm quite the energy bunny. So before we start, I would just love to have some sort of poll or some sort of feedback from the members. I can see 23 persons on the call. I would love to know, I believe that everyone here, you're either a business owner, you launched a business, you're about to launch a business, you're either ideating, you're still thinking about what you want to do, or you are already doing something and you just want to expand, you want to do right by the laws and by the books. So just put in the comment section, what's your industry? How many years has your business? How long have you been operating your business, right? And just state your key goals within the next 3 years. Let's have that very quickly in the comment section while I start, okay? So let's say fastest fingers first. I always like an energetic room. So like I said, your industry, if you want to add your name, it's fine. The name of your business, the industry you're in, the number of years you've been operating that business, and what your goals are in the next 3 years. All right, so while we're doing that, I'm just going to move on. I'm pretty sure we can all see my slides so that I'm not distracting you. So let's do that. Let's have like 2-3 comments in the comment section. We're 24 people in the room now, so I want to see people's keypads being very, very busy. I need to see some activity going on in the chat section. And please, there'll be questions and answer after now. So definitely, I will definitely be able to answer those questions. I've been giving 45 minutes and I hope to make good use of that time. And then if you've not started a business or you're still thinking about what you want to do, it's perfectly fine. You can just state that in the comment section. Okay, I've not seen any comment though. Guys, don't dull on me this afternoon. I believe I'm in a very energetic room. All right, so while we are waiting, I will definitely be noticing that as we go on. As you can see on my screen, this is the table of contents for this presentation. We're going to be talking about corporate governance for international expansion. And of course, the very first thing you think about is understanding what corporate governance is. So we go into introduction and definitions, and then we move to the benefits, right, of corporate governance for international expansion, the measures for SMEs and startups, right? And I'm going to actually be giving a distinction between it. A lot of people are confused, or a lot of people think an SME is a startup and vice versa. They are not, and I will explain that. And then practical steps for implementing corporate governance in SMEs and startups. And of course, we're going to talk about the society and how the society can actually help you as an organization to actually, deploy and of course expand these principles that every single business needs to have. And then of course we move to the final words. I'm still waiting for my comments in the section. I've not forgotten. All right, so the basic introduction is this, right? If you look at the current trends from the last, or the business landscape from the 90s, from the 80s, from the 90s, you for those of us who are millennials here, you know what it is like not to have technology, right? If you're a Gen Z, of course, you were born in technology. If you're a baby boomer, you definitely understood maybe some form of mobile communication that was not as advanced as it is now. And of course, if you were before that, well, obviously you must have seen the Second World War or something, I don't know, but you can see that there is a trend, and there's been an upward growth, not only of knowledge, right? But of advancement, not only in innovation, not only in design thinking, but also in technology and also in business structure. Now, for those of us who understand what has been happening, especially in the financial and the business landscape, there's been a couple of global challenges or global crises that have happened. I'm pretty sure some of us will remember what happened when the stock market crashed in 2008. If you remember, you can just signify, and I would love to see if you can turn on your videos, it would be super great. I would love to see that, right? The truth is that in building sustainable organizations, a lot of business owners and businesses are usually very preoccupied, if I may use that word, on the growth of the business, the ability of the business to make money, the ability of the business to raise funding. And so people talking about systems and structure was not really so, what's the word, top burner, until some very huge global crisis happened. And some of us will remember, I don't know how many of you remember the Enron scandal. So Enron was a company that began to operate both in the, of course, the oil sector, and then most of the crises that happened within that organization was the fact that there was a lot of falsification of records. You had where their business model was not sustainable, but they kept piping up. And of course, when they launched on the stock market, of course, their shares went up to $100 per share. But within a short period of time, the shares dipped to about 0.99 or so. It was a very huge crash. The crash, there was loss of life, loss of jobs. There was a lot of failures, and that was one of the biggest corporate failures. The other was the dot-com, of course, bubble in 2000, where there was a lot of this, and there was just a downfall of that. And one of the critical things that we could see as a result of the fall of those organizations was the fact that while attention was being paid to public perception of the business, while attention was being paid to how the business was perceived on the stock market, how attention was being pushed on how the company was doing face value, a lot of attention was not being paid to the core systems and the processes of the company, the relationship between the companies and the employees, the relationship between the companies and the banks, the relationship between the companies and the shareholders. There was just a lot of mystery. And when that thing really burst, there was a lot of backlash. That the mortgage crisis that happened, where people lost their homes, lost their lives, their sources of livelihood and the likes. A lot of these things happened, and this was what even culminated towards people really waking up and say, guys, we cannot just take things that we see face value. We must understand that for us to truly last, no matter how we start, there must be established systems of corporate governance. So some of them are saying, oh, okay, corporate governance, I've been hearing this thing so much. What is it, right? Layman's definition. Corporate governance simply means the way an organization or a corporation is governed, how it's ruled, how it's directed, how it translates its objectives into truly serving the needs of society. And some of the things that the important dimensions of good corporate governance is ownership, structure, of course, governance, and accountability and transparency. And when you lack these things, of course, you're in a lot of trouble, right? So as companies literally expand, right, as they move from one level of growth to the other, and we're going to be addressing that, it is important that as a business person, as a startup, as an SME, whatever it is, you start from the very beginning. In fact, the best time to start thinking of how to employ good corporate governance in your organization is not the day where you go to CAC and register your business. It's before. It's the thinking, the iteration about how you are going to operate your business as a business owner, what your relationship is going to be with your clients, with your employees, with your staff, with your board, whatever it is. The OECD basically stated this quote, and I will read: as companies increasingly expand their operations globally, the importance of strong corporate governance practices in ensuring success and mitigating risk has come into sharper focus, with recent data showing a correlation between robust governance and financial performance. So when you are in an organization where things are accounted for, there's accountability, you know what is going in, you know what is coming out, you know what the challenges are, you are making steps to, solve them, especially with the right level of knowledge, you realize that as a business owner, you are saving yourself a whole lot of stress. right? So let's move into this thing called corporate governance. And I think it's one of the definitions that corporate governance simply means the way an organization is good and governed using best practices, right? And there are different levels. I always love to call it the 4 pillars of corporate governance. You can't have corporate governance without these 4 pillars. And what are they? The first thing is, of course, the purpose. Right? When you talk about the purpose, what exactly is the vision? What exactly is the focus of your business? It must be at par every day. And when you're talking about the purpose and the functionality and the objective of your business, for those of you who have registered your business in CAC will ask you a question. What is your business objects, right? Not is that is trying to tell you that what is your organization established to do? Have you been able to clearly articulate what it is? Is it in a clearly defined document? Do you have a vision? That's why every company has a vision and mission statement, yes or no? Right? They do. They all have vision and mission statement. So that's a core pillar, right? And in this core pillar, this is where strategy is deployed. This is where you begin to think of your operations. If you're in the logistics arm, how do you navigate the entire supply chain of your business? But for example, if you're in fashion, right? Let's break it down so that I'm not saying too much grammar, because I understand that this is for SMEs. When you are starting a fashion business, the first thing before you think of, oh, this is the business I want to do, the problem you want to solve, there's something we usually do in accelerator and incubator hubs. It's called having a business model canvas, where you are going to be asked very critical questions like, number one, what's your business model, right? Who is your end-to-end customer? Who is your customer? Who is your consumer? Your customer and your consumer are not the same. Let me not go business this afternoon, right? You understand the entirety of your business. You can map out your company and you know these are the critical spots of my business. Some of us, we just say, oh, I can sew and then I'm qualified to be a fashion company. No, you are not. Have you been able to identify your supply chain? How do you get materials? How do you source? How do you produce? How do you market? How do you reach your client? How do you serve them? What's their pre-buying experience? What's their post-buying experience? You are talking about the strategy and operations of your business. It must be clearly articulated. And then you move to process. And in this process, now you talk about, okay, we have this vision, we have this mission. What's the execution like? How are we going to comply? Now, that's what we talk about compliance. And that's why some of you are here. You're trying to understand, how can I understand what my industry requires? Then innovation, leadership, management. Who is going to be managing what? Who are the people that are going to drive this? Right? And then you move to performance. How would you track performance? How would you be able to understand what the key metrics of growth for your businesses are? All these are parts of corporate governance, because literally this is how your organization begins to affect itself and society, right? And then you move to development, you move toward people and systems. Every company needs people to function. Nobody, even if you are the sole founder of your business, you are the person responsible for that business, right? Exactly. So Ibuku has dropped a very beautiful comment here, and I love to see it. So you are talking about what's the relationship between your company as a business owner and your people, the equity, the ethics, the relationship, your organogram. What's that relationship like? These are the 4 pillars of corporate governance, right? So think about it: purpose, processes, performance, and people. Can someone put that in the comment box? Purpose, processes, performance, people. Purpose, processes, performance, and people. That should always be at the top of mind when you think about corporate governance, because those are the pillars that make a good corporate governance system, right? Now, what's the importance of course, SMEs to startups? Importance of corporate governance to SMEs and startups is this. Yeah, I love Hensha's comment, right? The first thing is that you are able to delineate who is responsible.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Please, can you confirm if you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Did I go?
Yeah, you went up at some.
Can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Okay, right.
Okay. I can hear you.
All right, great. So corporate governance is important to businesses. And okay, so now let me just talk about the difference between SMEs and startups. So everybody say, okay, I'm a startup. Now, an SME is like this, the elder cousin of a startup. And let me explain what that means. A startup is, I wouldn't use the word an organization, but a startup is valid proof that an original idea exists, that an original market exists, and a problem has been accurately discovered and can be solved. So when someone calls themselves a startup, it simply means that we've discovered a problem that we've built something, we can build something to solve. And then we are in the process of building, or we've built it, and we are just trying to validate our market consistently, right? Many SMEs still fall under this, but an SME is like a small, medium organization. It simply means that you've gone beyond trying to understand the problem. Now you are actually solving the problem. You have more clients. You are already in a space where you are already building traction. So you cannot be considered more or less, you are just starting. You're already in business. But because of language, and people just call themselves small businesses. So, but startups usually would always find them majorly in the technological sector. But doesn't mean that SMEs cannot be part of startups. But I just wanted to understand that dichotomy, right? That's why you hardly see the business. The second thing is that as a startup or as an SME, corporate governance helps you to mitigate risk. So you are able to identify, and that's why we talked about one of the 4 P's of corporate governance, which of course you talk about strategy. You anticipate what the risks of your value chain is. For example, we're talking about fashion industry, for example. You know what happens when you are in an economy that's predominantly import-based. So there's some certain fabrics that you know that you cannot find at some particular seasons. So you are able to do a detailed analysis of what are some of the risks that we face if we do not have A, B, and C, right? And then the second thing is that it improves your company's reputation. When you have clear policy document that itemizes the relationship between your shareholders, your board, and of course your management, or you have a policy document that talk about your employee, you have an employee handbook, right? Your employees knows the rules that governs your organization, your reputation is actually really, really kept, right? And I will share a couple of stories later. And then, of course, corporate governance helps you to comply with legal and regulatory requirements. So there are some of you on this call that you want to go into businesses that is highly regulated. I loved what Love was saying at the beginning of this conversation, where she talked about some of the things that Percussion HQ wants to do in terms of being able to be a knowledge bank, because that knowledge bank is very important. If you are into maybe cashew nuts, for example, and maybe if you want to export them, do you understand the regulators of your particular industry? If you're going to be doing export, there is no way you are not going to have to encounter the NEPC, which is the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, right? There's no way you're not going to encounter, for example, if you are going to be doing a lot of exporting to different countries, by now, I should not be telling you what you need to know about the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, right? And that's one of the things that she mentioned. So you are able to comply with these things, and you are able to know that, look, this is what is required. Some of us know it was the hotspots everywhere. I think October 19th, the president signed the Startup Act. And in that act, there is already rules and regulations that are required for you to be able to take advantage of it. So corporate governance in itself helps you to identify what are the laws that actually keep us going as an organization, and how can we take advantage of it. Right now, let's look at some of the challenges and the opportunities. Right, the slide is quite long, and I don't want to, bore a lot of us. But and please, if you're following, please write in the comment box. I get it. I agree. You can even, share your thoughts. Right. So the beautiful thing about international expansion, because that's the core focus. Right. I could say so many things about all the things I've mentioned. I would just spend hours, but we have to narrow it down to why you are here. International expansion. So that means before you even start thinking of, I want to go beyond Nigeria, the first thing you have to think about is, within my own local ecosystem, what have I put in place that prepares me when the international market comes calling, right? And so let's look at some of the opportunities that you stand to gain by actually employing good corporate governance and expanding globally. The first thing is that it helps you with your new markets, with customers, and of course, new revenue streams. So the reason why a lot of companies are in so many territories is simply because they have access to new companies. Microsoft is not a Nigerian organization, but they are here. We use their laptops, we use their system. They are making money from us, right? So if your company is well enough to scale into international Pan-African countries, to be able to get new clients, new customers, and all that. But like I would say, charity, they say, begins from what? Begins from home. So if you are able to scale locally, then you have proven that you have the capacity to scale internationally, all right? Then improve competitiveness. By expanding internationally, you can gain access to new technologies and, of course, international best practices. One of the beautiful things about the Society for Corporate Governance Nigeria is that it's not just an organization that is only dedicated to the growth of the organization just domestically, right? They are very, very much focused on ensuring that the practices that they tell you or they let you know about are things that are obtainable in almost every country. When I mean every country, that simply means they prepare you for this, right? Then improve brand recognition. You are able to gain more respect, more clout, more recognition as a brand, because when you start growing and you're in Kenya, you're in Rwanda, of course, there's a lot of energy that goes into that. So it's very important for you as a business organization to be able to have the capacity to do that, right? Let's move to the next thing. The next is access to new talent, resources, because it can provide you with access to new talent. So you have different people in different countries being able to work with your company. It's a beautiful thing, but you need to have a lot of structures in place. Then government support. Many countries have programs and resources that help SMEs and startups to expand internationally. And that's a very, very good thing, right? So you're able to get government support, and it basically is one of the 4 things that you should do. So for some reason, my screen stopped sharing. Can you confirm if you can still see my screen?
I can't see it now.
Okay, all right. Sorry about that. I think so let's just go back to that. So there is so much that happens when you scale internationally. It's beyond just being able to, say, oh, now we're in Kenya. No, it's beyond that. It's now, I've been able to really prove and validate my business. And it's such an incredible place to be as a business owner, because the truth is that not only have you identified a problem, you've also been able to prove that people in other territories also need to have that problem solved. And so it's such a beautiful thing to do. It's just a beautiful thing to have. So I'm going to share, I think I can share my screen now. Give me a second. I would love to share a window rather than just share a page. So I think that was just an abrupt, okay. All right. So let me know if you can see it now. If you can't, please let me know so that I can just move ahead. Yes, great. Okay, so we're back here, right? Government support, you are able to get a lot of government support. And it's one of the very, very interesting things where you have, so like I said, under the new Startup Act, there's actually going to be a series of incubator and accelerator hubs for businesses, startup founders to be able to, meet, converge, raise funding and all that. It's such a beautiful thing to have, right? So it's very, 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 very important. Now, let's look at this. What are some of the challenges? If you are thinking of scaling internationally, there are some things that you should be prepared for. The first thing is that you're going to be navigating different cultures. So you're going to go into a territory that does not speak your language, may not do business like you, may have a different culture. I think I have an example of a friend who started some sort of, I would say, micro lending activity. And I think they were in country A, I won't mention the country, and then they moved to country B, still within Africa. And one of the things that they encountered when they got to the next country to say, oh, this is the business we're about to start, they had to understand that before you can collect money from particularly a particular age or category of women, right, there were some certain things that they had to go and do in the Ministry for Women Development, because there was a cultural thing they had to do here, and there. So you must be ready, right, for some of these nuances that happen in a territory that originally is not yours, okay? Then the next thing you deal with is languages and legal systems. You are dealing with a new set of laws, So for example, right, the startup law of Nigeria is not the exact same thing as the startup law of Tunisia. So if you're a startup that's trying to scale into Tunisia, you must understand the startup law of Tunisia. The startup law of Tunisia was done in 2018, right? So you must understand, and then dealing with different business practices and regulations, something similar to what I've said, right? There, of course, so let's think about it. I have a very interesting business relationship with a corporate firm in the US. And one of the things that I got to understand when I had to take companies that I was doing work for here in Nigeria to the US was the fact that their names are different. So here in Nigeria, we may say this is a very, very basic example. In Nigeria, you say a limited liability company, limited liability, a limited company or something. And of course, on our papers, you see something limited. In the US, in Delaware, you see LLC. So a lot of people are confused. They think they're different things, but they're actually the same thing, just different terminologies, right? That's like basic, but there are so many terminologies that you may need to understand because there are different laws, regulations, and all that, right? Then let's look at some data. I love data. I love data a lot. I love data and I love stories. There are so many ways to learn. As a business owner, please, and I say this with every sense of caution, responsibility, and assistance is this. Please don't run away from numbers. Many people like to just start. It's great, but you must fall in love with data. You cannot not love data as a business owner. You must know the numbers. You may not be a good mathematician. God knows I'm not. I have tried, right? But you must be interested in the finances of your business. You must be interested in the business environment that you are in, not just in terms of passion, but in terms of data. It's so important because it is that data that keeps you from making unnecessary. In fact, some of you, after this conversation, you will realize that I think I still have much work to do before I start talking about international expansion. I have to do A, B, C, D, because the data says this. Some of us are going to begin to make well-informed decisions as a result of new knowledge. So you must love data. You must understand the numbers and the figures that of your business. You must understand the problem in financial. So for example, one of the critical things that I learned, especially because I was privileged to co-found a startup and I applied to several incubator accelerator programs. One of this is the Tony Foundation. And for those of us that have applied to the Tony Foundation, you will know and you can confirm in the comment section. There's some certain questions they will ask you. The first question they will ask you is that, what's the size of your customer market in dollars? How do you answer that question? So you have a lot of people say, you have to do this, you have to do that. There was a simple way I was given to solve it. How do you calculate the problem you're solving in dollars? How do you say, the problem of, okay, so let's think of a business that's trying to solve a problem now. Let's say the logistics is a big problem everywhere, no matter the number of logistic companies that are available. I say logistics is a big problem. It has been validly proven according to a data research by so and so that the amount of so and so lost as a result of maybe pre-production or post-production loss of maybe, let's say, bananas, how to transport maybe bananas from Kano to Lagos, or you're able to have that data and say, this is the amount of loss that has happened, and that's why we are solving this problem. If we are able to, you identify what's the dollar value of your market. If you're able to calculate that and say, look, we just want to solve this problem for 12% or 10% of that market. You have to understand numbers, right? Sorry for digressing a bit, but I think it's important to say this because when you stand before an investor or you stand before a venture capital organization and you want to pitch your business, you must know your figures. If not, people won't take it seriously, and I can tell you that for free. So a study by the Boston Consulting Group has found that SMEs that export their products and services are more likely to be innovative and have higher productivity rates than those that do not. So international expansion actually helps you to be more innovative because you are being exposed to more clients, more people who don't think like you. So you must keep iterating and thinking of ways to communicate with people that are not you. So it's a constantly evolving process, right? And then the benefits: improved decision-making and accountability, enhanced risk management and compliance, increased investor confidence and access to funding. right? So when you are scaling, when you are growing, you're moving from one territory to the other. And some of us don't think that it's about Nigeria, Ghana, Benin, Africa, US, Asia. Start from Lagos to Osun State to Ibadan do you understand? Like, if it's not in your plan, no problem. But if you want to go from Lagos to the world, oh well and good. But you must understand that when you are able to scale and move from one territory to the other, it shows that you are actually doing the work, right? So like I said, three things I love. I love data, I love numbers, and I love stories. We learn from stories. And the reason why we learn from stories is because stories teach us mistakes that can be avoided, and they show us strategies that can be deployed. So there's a research by HT Legal Advisory Services. I quote their report and I put in this presentation. It's public knowledge, so this is not a copyright thing. As we all know, for some of us, we've heard about the crash of the FTX. Some of us, we've heard about Theranos and the crash of Theranos. You've seen some of the people that have been indicted for falsification of records. And there is one word that comes at me when I hear these things. And what's that word? It's called due diligence. Due diligence is a critical process in every investor roadmap that validates that what you are saying and doing as a business is actually what you are saying and doing. It simply refers to the step that is taken by a person to verify facts to come to a decision. And there are so many people involved in this process. Lawyers, accountants, tax consultants, so many people, financial analysts and all that, right? And every investor, I have listed some of the things that are looked at as a business. Because the truth is that for you to scale internationally, sometimes you need capital. And capital does not come until some person tries to fund you, your customers fund you, or you're in a fundraising process, or there are other things you're trying to do to scale. So these are some of the things that will be asked from you. Now, I've listed the business ownership and structure, your employees, what are their benefits, your intellectual property, who owns your trade secrets, right? Antitrust and regulatory issues. So when you're scaling to another country, you deal with, how are you using their funds for money laundering? There are so many things to think about. Valuation, what's your company worth? What you are saying your company is worth on paper, is that what it's truly worth? The value of your physical assets. What licenses do you have to operate the business you're operating? Do you have permits to do that? Your tax information, do you file your taxes? And if our tax is that one is like a 3-hour conversation. Because a lot of small business owners, they run away from tax compliance because they think that government has said, oh, we have to pay 7.5%. So does that mean that if somebody gives me 30K as payment for my product, I should pay 7.5%? No, sir, no, ma'am. Let me break that jinx now because I love tax so much. Taxes are taken from profits, not revenue. Let me repeat that again. Think of revenue as a portion of bread. The profit, let's just assume that when you cut the bread into two, 50% is, let's say, the profit. Your tax is not taken from the entire bread. It's taken from that half, which is the profits that you cut. And in fact, do you know that as a small company or as a small business, you do not have to pay value-added tax, 7.5%, until you hit a particular threshold in revenue. If your business is not making up to 25 million naira in a financial year, you don't have to pay VAT. A lot of business owners don't know this. Of course, you should file your reports monthly because the required deadline to do that is the 21st of every month. Let me not even go too far, but in fact, I can't believe that my time is almost up. Jesus. Okay. All right. So basically, this is the list. Let's look at some stories. Right. These are stories of people who literally built $1 million businesses, and they literally crashed. Why? Because of issues as to offenses. I'm sure you can read the screen, so I won't read it word for word. For those of us that are into cryptocurrency, of course, you know that the thing affected you in a way. In fact, some startups laid off staff because most of their investments were in this FTX. A lot of them, and they could not pay because they literally lost all their value, more or most of their value. Some of them I will mention, some of them I can't, right? And right now, there was money laundering, securities fraud, commodities fraud, and these were people that were listed on Forbes 400. So it's not as if they were not known. It's not as if they were not in different countries. So you realize that no matter how big you are, no matter how small you are, our Nigerian brother, unfortunately, was also on that list, right? He was featured on Africa's Most Promising Entrepreneurs, 30 under 30. But yet, there was internet fraud going on. And this is somebody that faces, he's actually in prison at the moment, right? And then we all know the amazing Elizabeth Holmes Theranos that literally falsified its entire business model operations, right? And literally hit a 10 billion valuation peak in 2013 and made so many claims, raised so much funding, and everything was this. I will use the word hoax and all that. So if you think it's only Nigerians that do these things, I'm so sorry to disappoint you. And it's so unfortunate that we have women in the mix, right? The latest one that happened was this software technology company called Frank that literally falsified over 400 clients, falsified that it had over 400 clients in its database, which it never had. And I kept raising valuation over and over and over again. Fake customers, they never existed. But these were people that were on Forbes 30 under 30. So let me just say this as an aside. Don't be moved by what you see online. Build your business, face your work, and grow the way you should, right? So let's just go straight to some of the measures. I'm halfway through my slides. I promise I'm going to rush through. The first thing is understand the regulatory landscape of your business. If you're in fashion, what are all the laws? Go to see, this is not rocket science. Go to Google. What are the list of regulations that govern the fashion industry in Nigeria? Go and Google it. You said know what they are first, right? There are so many organizational regulatory handbooks that are required. The Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance 2018 is one of the codes that can actually educate you on how the relationship between your board, your shareholders, if you have a company, should be. Your corporate governance documents, CAMA 2020, the Nigerian Startup Act. Everybody here, I have an assignment for you. Go and study that act. It's just 27 pages. It's not difficult. Go and read it so that nobody will bobo you and tell you what is not, right? Then, like I said, establish the responsibilities and the roles of who is your management. If you don't have a board now, maybe you have an advisory board. Know who they are. Understand what the relationship should be. Have a code of conduct for your company, for your staff, for your employers, your code of conduct and ethics that shows that it is actually quite transparent. And there should be a very, very open decision-making process. And of course, implement effective risk management and compliance practices. It is so critical, right? And then I just, I don't know, this is not showing very clearly, so let me just reduce it a bit. Yeah, so understand when you talk about relationship between stakeholders. So if you're a limited liability company here, for instance, you're going to have shareholders, right? The board are more or less, so I like to define a company using a car, right? For those of us that think of your company as a car. So you're sitting in the car, you are the owner of the business, you're the owner, you're the founder, you're the creator. So you are the driver of the car. Think of your directors, your shareholders as the engine of the car, right? They do the work. They're the ones that have to generate ideas, to make sure that the car moves from one position to the other, right? Think of your clients, your customers, who you are serving as the passengers. They are sitting in your car. It's where you take them to. That's where they will go, right? Then think of the board as the manual of your car. The board is like, your board of directors are like the manual of your car that tell your car that, look, in the event of this, do this. This is what your car can do. This is it. They're like the persons that give, what's the word? Direction, advice to your company, right? So that's a way I look at it. And I think it's very easy to understand when you think about it from that perspective. Let me enlarge my screen again. Then let's move to some laws. So another assignment I'm giving you is to have a look at the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance. Of course, the code is not for SMEs, as it were. It's more or less like a document that explains how the risk relationship should be in practicality. There are about 28 sections, and it talks about things from your board of directors and your officers of the board to assurance, sustainability. For some those of you that don't understand that even climate issues affect your business, relationship with shareholders, transparency. That code basically elucidates 28 principles that as a business owner you should practice, right? And I of course I won't take our time, so I won't go into nitty-gritties, but basically that's what you should do. Yeah, so let's move. So what are some of the practical steps now? Because I'm about rounding off, is And I have to pull this down. Sorry, it's a lot of text, but I have to put this there so that you can always read in your spare time. Now, SMEs and startups should please conduct a thorough assessment of where you are now. As a business owner, even if you are the only person that is in your business, sit down, take a chair, put paper in an empty table, and have a board meeting with yourself. Assess the current state of your business now. Do you have any corporate governance practice? If no, note that. Your decision-making processes, communication, how do you intend to do that, right? And based on your assessment, you should now start identifying areas for improvement and set specific goals for implementing those measures. The next thing you should start thinking about is have a corporate governance framework that includes these clear roles and responsibilities. So you have codes for this. It's not too much to ask for. Because God bless you, the day where you have to talk about your business and you just come across in quotes, Femi Otedola, and says, oh, well, please tell me about what you do, and he asks for this question. You can articulate it because you have sat down to design it. Whether with a consultant, a business consultant, a lawyer, a corporate governance expert, the SCGN is one of the organizations that will definitely help you do this right. And then, of course, SMEs and startups should regularly monitor and evaluate. So it's not about having it. You must be able to track performance. It's one of the things that separates, companies that are on paper to companies that are really, really doing the work, right? Then let's talk about some data insights. So I love data, right? I told you there's some data that are very important. So the World Bank basically found that this is a research that was done. That was in 2018 to 2019. It says that a company that has good corporate governance practices are going to be more profitable. There was another study by the IFC, that's International Finance Corporation, that found that SMEs with good corporate governance were likely to attract investments from venture capitalists and other private equity investors. So let me explain who a venture capitalist is. A venture capitalist or a venture capital organization is an organization that they are predominantly focused towards investing in businesses, usually in very huge sums, to be able to quickly turn over profits. And most of the time, venture capital organizations get their profits when your company raises its next stage of financing. So let me give a typical example. Let's say you've not raised money before, maybe nobody has invested in your company before. Usually an investor wants a return on their investment, right? And maybe your first venture capital organization comes and you guys negotiate. And most of the time, venture capital organizations will ask you for a percentage in your company, maybe shares or something, right? Or they use a convertible note, which is like a loan, and then it translates to shares for them. Some use safe agreements, right? Their shares do not convert until the next stage of funding, whatever it is. And they have different advantages and disadvantages. This is not a VC class. You can always get that later, but it's good to understand that funding process. You are able to position yourself to get more funding from this organization if you have these organizational documents together, right? Then a study by the Small Business Management Journal found that SMEs with strong corporate governance practices had better financial performance because you are able to track. There was something I wrote on LinkedIn that was, I think last week, I said, whatever it is you cannot account for, you cannot maximize, you cannot improve, you cannot increase. What you cannot track, you cannot manage, right? You cannot manage, you cannot grow. It's a principle of life, and it should be a principle of your business. You must track everything. A study by the Boston Consulting Group found that SMEs that export their products and services are more likely to be innovative, and they have higher productivity rates than those that do not. So, businesses that expand are very attractive. That's the honest truth. And when you position yourself as a business that's able to do this, then you're able to literally get a lot of recognition, visibility, funding, and of course, profitability, because that's the goal. The data insights that I shared with you earlier, they had the visibility, they had the expansion, but they didn't have the governance, right? So that triangle must be there. It's not about just being visible. It's not about not just having the clouds and just having that. You must have the governance. It's very important. That's what distinguishes you from the rest. So I need at this critical point in time to actually talk to you about the Society for Corporate Governance, because beyond just being an organization, we are literally dedicated to ensuring that we take responsibility and we ensure that your organization has best corporate practices, right? We're founded recently, and we are a registered non-for-profit organization that is dedicated to the development of corporate governance in Africa, right? And one of the critical things about our organization is that we promote corporate governance best practices all across the continent. It's something that we do, and there are so many steps, there are so many ways that we go about this. We have programs, we have learning sessions, we have books, we provide so many services, and I'll be sharing that in the next slide, right? Our commitment basically is to help people like you, organizations like yours, really get the hang of this thing and be able to take the burden of having to check whether you are doing the right thing or not in order, right? For want of a better word. So yes, we have open memberships to be members of society. So I am privileged to be a member of the society, and to be honest, it's been an interesting and an amazing ride, right? Opportunities like this is one of the advantages you get by being a member of the society, right? So it upscales your capacity for governance and compliance, and of course, there are multiple disciplines that they employ. So you have lawyers, you have corporate organizations. So even as a corporate organization, you can be a member, right? You have access to strategy, regulation, boardroom, and organizational dynamics are some of the things that we bring to the table. Research and publications. So one of the interesting things I got, let me see if that, yes, sorry, give me a second, right? Let me just turn off my video for a bit. So one of the very interesting things I did before I even became a member of the society is that I took advantage of some of the books that the society has. So this is a book, Company Secretary Guide on Corporate Governance, right? This book literally saved my life. As a lawyer, it's very easy to brag that you know what this topic is about. But when you have access to publications like this, it really just changes the game and sets that professional, as it were, right? And of course, we have access to articles as well. So you are able to, read current practices in corporate governance. I think it's one of my most interesting parts of actually being a member. Then board evaluation, right? For those of us who are intending to, inaugurate boards, or you have a board already, try to understand, some of the things and appraise your board. Those are one of the things the organization does. And board enhancements, right? So if you have board of directors that are not growing, that do not understand the dynamics of the organization, cannot help you, you're just going to be really frustrated as an entrepreneur, as a business founder, or as an SME or business owner. So we help you with that. Then, of course, strategy retreats for board and management. So maybe we organize trainings. Your board, maybe there's a retreat session, business organizations or business objectives are able to do that. Then in-house trainings, we do in-house trainings for our senior managers, and we have a lot of training programs. We're actually having one. So I think we have, I think that's on Tuesday, if I'm correct. It's talking about the economic outlook, the macroeconomic outlook for 2023. So you have to check the website. The website is on my screen. You can just check it, www.societyforcorporategovernance.org or corporategovernance.nigeria.org is down. You will see many of the programs that we have. So you can start following us, right? So that you can see some of the things that we have. So that's it. And then we have a training calendar. So let me see if I'm able to open that. You can always go to our website and you'll be able to see the training calendar. And you're able to see we have a lot of packed programs for you as a business owner. So yeah, my slide has taken me automatically to the page. So these are the programs that we have for 2023, and trust me, you don't want to miss it, right? So these are some of the training programs that we have. We have strategy evaluation. I am particularly excited about the breakfast meeting on Tuesday, yes, I mentioned. So this is one of the programs that we have coming up. So make sure you register, just go on the website. And if you want to be a member, please just send a message. The society replies to your emails all the time. There are phone numbers below. You can always call and reach